Hello, thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I am Eduardo, your host and moderator for today. I'm based in New York City. It's pretty cold here today, so let's get the energy going. Audience, why don't you go ahead in the chat and let us know where you're calling from? I hope it's somewhere a little bit warmer than New York City today. And I have a quick icebreaker for our speakers while we wait for people to join us today. So I'm going to ask my speakers, Max and Angela, are hot dog sandwiches? And I am going to start with Max.
Hot dogs are not a sandwich. They are a taco because they have three sides of bread.
Three sides of bread. Yes,
Yes.
okay, I see. The bread is
Bottom
connected.
and sides.
I
Yes.
see. But one person told me one day that tacos have like minced meat inside, and that's not the case for hot dogs. So what do you say about that?
I mean, it's still minced meat in a hot dog. It's just been
It's just
tubularized.
yes, that's a good point. All right, Angela, are hot dog sandwiches?
I think hot dogs are a sandwich. I have no stats to back that up other than just feelings.
And
Awesome.
we're
That
gonna take that offline later.
Yeah.
I had someone one day telling me anything can be a sandwich. It only depends on the marketing. So that's a good answer too.
Oh, that is a good
Right?
answer.
Right?
Yeah.
All all right, so let's get started. We are here today to talk about to bust the myth of commission automation readiness with this awesome panelist. We are so excited about the amazing content and takeaways you will get from this event. Let me get my slides on. And here is the title. This event is brought to you by the team at Modern Sales Pros. For those of you not familiar with MSP, we are the world's largest and highest quality community for those in sales management, sales leadership, sales and revenue operations, and sales enablement, aka our modern sales pros. And our mission is to create an environment for our members to answer the questions they would struggle to solve on their own and to help them see around corners they might not know about. And we do that through live sessions like this one you're about to experience. We have a robust online forum and we have quarterly summits. And we are starting to get back into in person events, which is very exciting. If you're not already part of the MSP crew, you will be invited to join right after this event. And as I mentioned, we have quarterly summits, and we just launched our summit for January. If you like this content, you will love our Modern Sales Pros Revenue Excellence Summit. Joining us for the Mega School in January 24 to 26, 2023. We have more than 20 events, more than 5,000 modern sales pros in attendance, 60 plus high caliber speakers. You can hear from leaders at Drift, Sales Loft, Lean Data, Stage 2 Capital, Spiff, and much more. You don't want to miss out. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now so you can sign up, audience. Hey, Matt, I see you're here. Um, awesome. So let's focus now on how to get the most out of this event instead of other events. This event is being recorded, so you will be able to access the recording in the Modern Sales Pros website, and you will also receive a follow-up email with the link to watch our amazing speakers throwing all the knowledge at you when you most need it. And I was talking with them backstage. They love questions. So please let's use the Q&A and the chat function on the right-hand side to send them all the questions that you need to answer today. But let's talk about this event. The word for 2023 will be precision. Sales teams have no time to lose trying to figure out spreadsheets and templates that actually don't work and end up slowing things down. Same goes for commission automation. Automating your sales commission compensation is a big deal. Whether you're transitioning from a manual commission management process or a spreadsheet-based legacy system, there are a lot of time and resources on the line. But you already know all the payoff of automation. You can build efficiency, visibility, and accuracy right into your sales engine. We had an event last week with Spiff where sales leaders shared what was working and what was not working with their commission plans. And one thing all of them agreed upon was that doing commissions manually does not work anymore. But we will understand that companies struggle with this topic. So that's why I have two specialists here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Max.
Hi, everyone. I'm Max Sadler. I'm a senior solutions architect here at Spiff. And if you're like me, you're probably up at 3 a.m. thinking about the best way to automate commission plans. But hopefully, that's not the case for everybody like it is for me. And I'll pass it over to Ange.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Donato. I'm our Director of Sales here at Spiff. Fun fact, I actually was a previous Spiff customer and really enjoyed it. But wanted to give you guys just kind of a quick rundown if you haven't heard about Spiff before. We are a new class of commission automation software that's really focusing on building trust and bridging the gap between those who calculate the commissions and those who are receiving them. As an admin, which is many of the folks on this call today, we make it really easy to maintain. And Spiff has the flexibility to handle any type of complexity to your comp plans. And then on the flip side, we're also seeing a lot of high rep adoption with this real-time transparency into their statements, allowing reps to understand exactly how they're paid. So that's just a little bit about Spiff. And then Eduardo, if we can go to the next slide, we'll get into the meat of this webinar today.
Awesome. You can start from now, Angela. I will go watch you live and I'll be back later for some outro notes, okay?
Okay, perfect.
I'll see you.
All right. So when chatting with folks who are looking to automate their commission process, there's often this really big misconception that they aren't ready, right? There's the 3 points on the slide here. One, my data needs to be clean. I can't trust my data. We do a lot of manipulation outside of our data source. The second is, a lot of people tend to think that their commission plans must be totally perfect and constructed, that they need to be documented. Sometimes people think, I'm rewriting my commission plans or we're changing some quotas, right? Everything's always changing, so therefore they can't automate their process. And then the last myth is that they tend to think that they need to have a dedicated resource to administer and manage this process and system. And the problem with this approach is that it assumes that you need an automated system that requires really a lot of faultless set of conditions. And so before Max dives into why you're probably more ready than you realize, is I want to talk a little bit more about the manual processes that a lot of companies are experiencing today. So in the era of being more efficient with our teams, right, as we enter into 2023, sticking with your manual process wastes time and resources, which I think we can all agree here. Inaccurate payouts, Excel and spreadsheets, 88% of spreadsheets have mistakes in them, right? Reps are double checking your work, and truth is, reps don't understand Excel formulas, right? This lack of visibility and transparency creates a lot of mistrust among teams and really ends up hurting morale. Just to kind of give you some backstory, this happened at my last company firsthand. A statement was incorrect. Reps have their own Slack channel outside of their manager. Everyone's slacking each other, saying, hey, look at your statements. There was an inaccurate one in my spreadsheet. And we call this shadow accounting, where reps keep a spreadsheet to track their own deals for the sake of accurate paychecks down the line. And I don't know if you guys know this statistic, but only 37% of sales reps' time is spent on revenue generating activities. Most of the time, if you were to take a poll right now with your team, they probably have a spreadsheet on the side, just making sure that everything is correct. And then Eduardo, if you can go to the next slide. And so what that is one mishap in that accurate spreadsheet, right? 88% of spreadsheets have an error in it, is sales compensation related issues are the number one cause for sales turnover. And when you think about how long it takes to ramp up rep, I know this past year, a lot of people hired and, they were ramping a majority of their team. This is a lot of money that, you have to take into consideration if how you're outputting to your sales team, their compensation. If one thing goes wrong, you have to re-ramp that rep. Eduardo, if you can go to the next slide as well. So in this economic climate, the last thing you want is obviously to lose money and having to replace a churned rep who left due to comp related issues, right? Losing a sales rep, again, is a lot of money. And when you factor in the cost of acquiring new sales reps, training them, the opportunity costs of not having a person in seat during that term, it's something to think about. You can see here you have 15 reps, the turn rate of 31%. That ends up being $450,000. And sales compensation does make up 10% of the spend in most of companies. So you want to make sure that you're getting that right. And then the next slide. So you want to motivate your reps by having some type of automated system in place. It really does show that you care and you're wanting to build trust for them. I was part of a lot of evaluations in the past of looking at commission software, and as a rep, it was honestly really nice to have my sales ops person have me be part of that demo, because it just showed them that they cared, that they wanted to build trust. It's really important to them. And you can see here, we took these stats from Spiff, surveyed out to our end users of the average of importance for this. And you can see it's scored 9 out of 10. So it is obviously really important for them. They want to be able to track their commissions. They want to be able to see future commissions down the road. As a sales manager, I think there's a couple of sales managers in this room. This is how I motivate my team. I take a look at their pipeline. I pay attention to specific deals that are going to move the needle for them and how they can make their number or maximize their comp plan. And having this visibility makes it a lot easier for me than having to pull reports from Salesforce or your CRM and trying to do the math in a spreadsheet outside of it. So that's kind of, I think we understand the risk of not having an automated system in place, but let's pass it over to Max to kind of talk about, why you're probably more ready than you guys think you are.
Thanks, Ange. Yeah, so we've heard the objections as all over the place as to why you may think you're not ready to automate your commission processes. But as we'll see here, there's really 4 reasons why you're probably more ready than you think, and why really you can't afford to wait. So moving on to the next slide. Number 1, so waiting on your CRM or your ERP or any of your other source systems for commissions is actually going to cause more issues down the line. So I know this is near and dear to Ange's heart. How often are your reps entering in the wrong information in the CRM, the information that's pertinent to their compensation down the line? Probably happens quite a bit. Oh, go ahead, Ange.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
Yeah, so if we think about the current state where your commission process is manual, reps enter things incorrectly, but no one's really going to catch that until it comes time to kind of reconcile your compensation, which for most people that are doing this manually, that's sometime after the calculation period has closed, right? But I like to think about commission automation as almost like a governance tool for other systems, such as your CRM or your ERP. And what I mean by that is when you tie data hygiene in a CRM to someone's comp directly through automation, you're going to find that hygiene improves almost immediately, right? People aren't going to get paid. They're not going to get paid correctly if they're not entering in their own information correctly. So this is a great way to kind of bridge that gap between the data hygiene process in the upstream system and their actual paycheck, just by simply incorporating commission automation. Additionally, you're really eliminating disjointed processes and creating a more seamless flow of information with no gaps. If you think about the flow of information, often it's going to originate in your CRM, but then there's some exit point, right, where it's going to go over to the ERP and also to the commission process. And if that commission process is fully offline, fully manual in a spreadsheet somewhere, you've really created a gap where information kind of falls off the radar of everyone that needs to see it. Additionally, since commission automation really sits at the center intersection of so many different parts of your business, whether that be different departments like HR or different, tech, different tools like Salesforce or Workday or whatever it might be, we're really in a unique position with commission automation to better inform all the processes that are going on all over the place. So the way I like to think about this is, sure, your CRM might not be in the perfect place today, but by getting that easy win of commission automation, you're actually going to better be able to incorporate the processes that are essential in that upstream system, which is your CRM. Let's go on to number 2 here. So the next one is, you don't have to automate all your comp plans at once. We get a lot of customers that say, hey, we have one comp plan ready, but we're still kind of finalizing the others. Or, this other comp plan we have is, an enigma to us. We don't really know how it's functioning today. So to that, I say we don't have to do it all at once. You can get incremental gains, which are better than nothing, by kind of taking this in a more phased manner, and you don't have to overcomplicate the process. What we do find here is that by getting those small incremental gains of automating some plans, but not others, not only are you now freeing up your time to make better decisions and kind of think about the overall process at a higher level, but you're also going to be able to have, a learning experience from moving to commission automation that will better inform that future state when all of your plans are being automated. Really, it is a great learning process. And at the end of the day, commission automation is a transformative process. It's not just a tool that does a thing, right? Because of what I mentioned before, where it sits at the intersection of all these different processes, you have to kind of think about this as more of a process change than just a tool. And it can be really hard to visualize what that future state is going to look like. So start small, have your learning experience, get those easy wins, and slowly kind of chip away at that better future state that you're trying to achieve. Let's move on to the next slide. So the next topic is going to be around manual management and how that's actually more resource intensive than automation. So we've laid out this timeline here for you. So the top here is kind of the typical current state for a lot of people that are using a spreadsheet or some manual process. And this goes back to the CRM data hygiene part as well, right? People don't enter in information correctly. Reps don't understand, how they're getting paid. They have no visibility into it. So reps are off selling for a period of time. Let's say it's for the month, and then month closes and your comp admin sits down and starts calculating out the comp, sends out the commission statements in a manual fashion to all the reps. Suddenly the reps are flooded with all these surprises that they didn't know were going to occur. There's data errors everywhere, commissions are incorrect. And so the comp admin is suddenly inundated with all these disputes, all these resolutions, all these manual adjustments that need to occur to deals, and payroll's due on Friday, right? So they have to, cram 40 hours of work into 3 days to handle all these disputes, do all the adjustments that are required just to meet the payroll deadline. And that's because there's no window into what's going on until it's already too late to address it, right? When you move to commission automation, what you're achieving is a more real-time approach to this. Deal closes, the rep immediately sees what they're being comped on, right? So we actually find that you take that 40 hours of dispute resolution and adjustment and spread it across the entire calculation cycle, which greatly reduces the load on your comp team. So if we can move on to the next slide. All this is to say that sticking manual is actually a lot more resource intensive than moving to automation, which may seem intuitive, but this can be a hang-up point for a lot of people. When you're stuck with a manual process, there's no time to actually implement something new. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Save yourself some time now, put in the work now and save yourself some time in the future, because it's never going to be easier than it is today. It's only going to get harder. You're going to grow. You're going to be so bogged down in that manual process that when the time comes that you think you are ready for automation, it's become that much more complicated to actually do so. And as Andrew alluded to earlier in the presentation, I think this is going to be a hot topic moving into 2023, where sales efficiency is going to be on everyone's mind. Everyone's going to have to do more with less. Reps are going to be very closely scrutinizing every deal. And so the best way to actually accomplish that is to give them transparency in real time in an automated way to really reduce the load on everyone involved there. Let's move on to the next slide. So the final objection is that, you simply don't have the resources or the time as an organization to commit to this process. Standing up a comp automation tool can be, a pretty intensive process depending on, how bogged down in your current manual processes you are and kind of the state of the other moving pieces that we've already talked about. But it's important to know that the right vendor is actually going to be a partner with you and work you through this entire process. So again, this goes back to a little bit of pain now is going to give you so much savings in the near future. And the automation tool will walk you through that entire process. So it really, you don't have to be afraid of having the time and the resources to commit to this at this time, the right vendor will be your partner in that process. It's only going to get harder as you grow, so why not now? And on to the final slide here. So all this is to say, you really cannot afford to wait. We've talked about the economic climate, doing more with less. That's going to be extremely important. And the best way to do more with less is automation, right? Reps are going to have to be more efficient. They're going to be very closely scrutinizing everything that they're involved with. And so the best way that you accomplish that is get everything in front of them sooner in a more proactive manner, rather than some comp statement, 2 weeks after the period has closed. And finally, it's always going to be harder later. So why not today? There are so many resources. The right vendor is going to be your partner through the process, and it's going to save you a lot of headache in the future. I think we have one more slide here. So as I said, the right time to automate comp is now. You're going to give reps access to real-time data. They're much more flexible and scalable. As I said, it's only going to get harder. You're only going to get more entrenched in your current manual process. So by moving to automation now, you're unlocking that flexibility and scalability that will really be able to grow with you. Additionally, the visibility and transparency that you gain is not only going to make the reps' lives easier, you're also going to reduce turnover. They're going to trust the process more. And then finally, it's much easier to track, maintain, and keep accurate. Free up your time from all these manual administration duties to actually focus on what's important, which is incentivizing your reps with the behavior that you want them to be doing. And I think now we are moving on to a live Q&A.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Sorry, it took a little bit for my internet to come. Thank you for this presentation, Max. We have some questions in here. Cheryl is asking, does software take into account of deal discounts? Example, rep sold 30K ARR, but customer paid annual for 10% discount. We pay commission on net ARR or the 27K ARR.
Yeah, so that would be really easy to do in a comp automation tool. Any requirements or rules you have around how you're handling discounting or any of that data flowing out of your CRM or ERP, if it's programmatic in nature, you can absolutely automate that. And the more important thing here is, before, if that existed on a spreadsheet, the rep may have no idea why their 30K deal is now being comped at 27K. But with an automation tool that gives them transparency, from the moment that closes, they see exactly what is happening and why it's happening. They can see, oh, it's that 10% discount that's reducing what my eligible comp is. If you have any questions, let's handle that right now rather than when payrolls due in 2 days.
That's interesting. And that goes back to the point that Angela said before, that it's very important for the reps to track their commissions and to see, have visibility of what's going on in there, right? Awesome. Angela, what's your experience as a manager says around this question, like how that visibility for discounts is important for your reps?
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes some of the conversations that you have around automating your commissions is that you think your reps are going to scrutinize, more of these deals. But the fact that, again, you're giving them this real-time transparency, we actually see a lot of decreases in the amount of disputes that they have. And some platforms are, you're able to actually see more around, how a specific deal is paid out. So previously when I was a rep, I actually got paid, Cheryl, on like a net ARR because we had a true up model. And some of the best practices when you're considering an automated tool is making sure that what you have written in your comp plan, like I mentioned, a lot of reps don't understand Excel. And so if you have something written out for, hey, ARR times the discount rate, this is your net, whatever it may be, that's what you want to put into your automated system so that reps have that consistency and are able to reference their comp plan and go through the logic so that they understand how they're being fully paid out. So it's helped me with a lot of automated systems as well do have, comment features and functionality. So, your manager actually gets a heads up if there are any discrepancy or questions, so that they're really in the loop. I think sometimes with a manual process, it kind of goes into this, Microsoft Teams or Slack abyss, and they bring it up in the one-on-ones, and you're not able to get ahead of it. And this allows you to get ahead of it with your reps and making sure that you're on the same page.
Very interesting. We have some follow-up questions. It sounds like this is a hot topic. Kevin is asking both of you to speak more about how you do this. Do you integrate the billing system, CRM, ability to adapt to any comp plan, and etc.? Like what is the logistics behind it?
Yeah, great question, Kevin. So, any good comp automation tool is going to be able to integrate with your various systems directly, and then more importantly, kind of link them together within the comp tool. As you know, comp is going to sit in the center of that. So some of that pertinent information for calculating comp might come from the CRM, and then the rest of it might come from the ERP or your billing system or whatever that might be. So any good comp tool is going to need to be able to make that linkage within to calculate comp in that manner. And then, as far as the ability to adapt to any comp plan, absolutely. I've seen every comp plan under the sun, basically, and I haven't run into one yet that I haven't been able to automate. At the end of the day, if the rules are programmatic, if there's a systematic way to actually calculate the comp, that can be automated as long as the tool is flexible enough to do so.
Awesome. We also have Tanner asking, how would expansion, MRR, ARR be taken into consideration?
Yeah, this is a good one too. So I see this one all the time. Generally we'll have in the data that it is marked as expansion or upsell or whatever the category is based on what the CRM is telling us. And then a lot of the times what I see with customers is they just pay on the incremental gain, right? So the system can look at, okay, this is an expansion deal. The MRR from it is this. The original deal was this. Let's pay on the net gain there. So pretty simple math to do behind the scenes there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and just to add to that too, sometimes people aren't tracking or don't have the resources to create that, custom field in there. And your automated system should be able to handle any type of calculation. So it's not so much, I'm not tracking the net ARR today in my core system. That's fine as long as you're able to distinguish, and tell the system, hey, this is a new business, this is expansion, upsell, renewal. Your automated system should be able to create that calculation. So that you don't have to create that field in there. Some customers do have that field already in there and pushing it into a system. It just kind of really depends on the resources that you have internally.
Good. Cheryl is asking a follow-up question. Can you track commission chargebacks, like cancel customers or stuff like this?
Yeah, another great question. So this is obviously a hot topic for a lot of people. And let's all be honest, it's not always a great experience for the rep. Something gets canceled, we have to claw back their commissions. So I think really the key there is ensuring transparency and visibility into exactly what is going on. That's really the best way to kind of handle that situation. And that is something that I automate all the time for most customers. Generally, the system will have some way of telling me that there was a canceled deal or whatever it might be, however it's labeled, and then we automate that through the system as well.
Yeah, and then again, reps are able to post comments. Admins are able to post comments. Again, this is with any automated system. They should be able to give them more insight as to what's happening. Some interesting things too is if you have a customer success platform, some of that information, if you are able to rework it, can be pushed into an automated system, or maybe you're tracking that in Salesforce already. So if you want to give the visibility to your sales team around, hey, these are the deals that you closed, and maybe their customer satisfaction, and maybe they're a red account, that is something that you can incorporate there too. So really you want to surface all of the information as it relates to their commission into that commission platform. And you want to keep all of that data hygiene around their deals, their contracts in the CRM. It makes it, I guess, as a sales manager and someone that has also previously been a sales team or sales rep, you kind of want to have these systems siloed as to, hey, I go to Sales Loft or Outreach if I want to go do my sequences. I go here if I want to go for my compensation, and I go here when I need to update my deals.
It sounds great. Keeps everything organized. Matt is asking, what are some plan structure trends you are seeing within your customer base?
Some plan structure trends around comp plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's definitely a hot topic right now as well. Some things I'm seeing are a move more towards paying commissions when money is received from the customer. Kind of before things started getting a little more tight, it was a better incentive, if you will, to pay just when a deal is booked, right? That keeps the rep motivated, it keeps the momentum going. But with kind of the shift of what's going on right now, we are seeing a shift to paying on invoice in the very least, if not cash actually received. So that's one thing. I'm also seeing a lot of efforts to simplify, which I'm a big fan of. We can see some pretty crazy comp plans that have 15 different accelerator tiers. And at the end of the day, it's pretty hard for the rep to follow. So I am seeing a reduction in the amount of accelerator complications and gatings and things like that, just making it very streamlined. And then the final point I'll add is another thing I'm a big fan of is comping on multi-year deals, especially with price increase. Going into 2023 with uncertainty, I think a multi-year deal is gold, right? Mm-hmm. So really having very clear, understandable, and healthy kickers if a deal is a 2-year or a 3-year contract, and then an additional kicker if there's a built-in price increase. So I'm seeing that a lot. I'm encouraging it a lot, and I hope that more organizations continue to look for kickers that align with things like that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Max there. We're seeing a lot of kickers added rather than the complexity of different tier payouts. Definitely some of the folks that we've chatted with, or what we're seeing in market is a lot of people had draws or some type of gated of like, hey, once you hit this threshold, that's when you're starting to get paid. We're seeing a lot of people doing away with that type of trend or into their comp plans because it's fairly confusing for sales reps to understand that. Another thing too is the payment on invoice. Some of the things, this kind of actually goes to your question, Kevin. Oftentimes what we see with some of like the billing systems or some of your ERPs or invoicing systems that you're tracking is we see some people that are doing 50% on bookings and then 50% when the customer pays next. If you have some type of different structure, again, it largely depends on how your company is structuring the contracts. So if you're only doing annual, obviously you have the bookings, but then the noting of the clawback. If you have them do semi-annual payments or maybe some terms with net 30 or net 45 or net 90, that's when that 50% bookings, 50% on invoice kind of comes into play. So it really, again, depends on how your company and the approvals that you have in place.
Awesome.
And just to add on to that, Ange, I think that's a really important point. If your process is manual today, it's not really worth the effort to kind of duplicate the calculating the commissions there. So you just do it when the invoice is received or when it's time to release it. But the great thing about automation is you can actually give the rep visibility through the whole process there, right? So you can render for them what their earned or their potential or their estimated commissions are just simply on the booked deal, and then automate that hold and release process if you want, or if you wait till the invoice is received, you see that commission estimate move from the estimation bucket over into the actual, these are your commissions to be paid. So the key there again is giving the rep transparency and visibility through the entire process and automating it so that it's not a heavy lift on their comp team.
Cool. We have a Spiff client in here, Cheryl. She's saying, as a Spiff client, do you have these pay structure best practices?
Yes, we definitely do. We actually have a team that can help with advising on comp plan best practices. We also do have some kind of historical data that we can discuss with our current clients as well, kind of benchmarking you against other customers that are similar in size or in your vertical or whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm. Kevin is asking, Related to subscription business, do you see clients comp plans that pay over the life or the life of or a defined term of a customer? Sorry, I butchered this question. Let me ask it again. Do you see client comp plans that pay over the life of or a defined term of a customer?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it seems like every comp plan I've automated for the past 3 or 4 months has been this exact same structure. So this is super common, especially in, it seems like usage-based models are becoming increasingly popular. So that's definitely something that we see quite a bit.
Cool. One more question here. As companies continue to scale and build their team next year, how can you ensure your compliance stay like up to date and work cross functionality? And also one thing that we see very often in the Modern Sales Pros uh, forum is that people change their compliance a lot. How this automation can help with this ever-changing scenario of the compliance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the beauty of comp automation is now you actually have the data to make these decisions. I think too often people are just kind of sticking their finger in the wind and throwing things against the wall and hoping something sticks, right? That's not really the best way to go about it. That's not a data informed decision. So when you've taken the administration lift off of your plate, that frees up all your time to actually look through the data. Additionally, as I mentioned in the presentation, comp sits at the intersection of so many different things. And in my opinion, it's really the best place to kind of do business intelligence. You have data coming from your CRM, you have data coming from your ERP, and then you have the single biggest cost of generating all that revenue, which is your variable comp, right? And that's the only place you're going to find all that information to be reported on is within a comp automation tool. And with all that information, you can actually make intelligent, informed decisions about how to adjust your comp plans and then actually be able to execute on that quickly and efficiently in an automated fashion so that you're not wasting too much time, reconfiguring your spreadsheet, getting everyone to sign off on that. You can actually respond once you have the data to prove out what you want to accomplish.
Awesome. Angelica is asking a follow-up question. As people leave orgs and new people come in, what are the biggest pros of automated comp plans when onboarding?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So a lot of these things can all be effective dated within a system. So it's really a couple clicks and then you don't have to worry about it again. It's all going to be completely automated. So if you have new people coming in, you can automate that process, assign them to their comp plan and their quota in an automated fashion so that they just start flowing through the system when they're eligible to. Similarly, if people leave or are terminated, you don't have to worry about, talking to HR to get something updated there, talking to the CRM to get something updated there, and then also worrying about your spreadsheet. You do it all just in a single location with effective end dating, right? So I think automation really reduces the lift there, and you also can kind of do it as it happens. You don't have to, worry about, the heavy lift that you're going to be facing when doing so.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, one of the other things to think about is internal promotions, right? As people are going on to new teams, it's super easy in a system to be able to do the effective dating that Max had mentioned. For example, when I was an SDR, I got 1% on close one business and then got promoted to an AE. You can put some rules in place if you have it, 3 months after, if someone is, the deal closes and you're still on that comp plan, you get that 1%. It's really easy to manage that. And so when reps are not keeping those shadow accounting that I was talking about, a separate spreadsheet of, hey, these are all the deals that had been qualified, and it looks like they're about to close, I only have 3 months to have this. They're pulling their own spreadsheets for sure, right? Because during that transition from SDR to AE, they're ramping, you don't know when their time to first logo is going to be. So they're really going to rely on that type of portion of the comp plan if you have that set up in place today.
Yeah, one big thing also we see a lot in the modern sales pros community is the communication of the comp plan to the SDRs, right? And those changes make it very confusing for them. Like if you're tracking manually, it makes it very confusing for managers and directors to inform the plan. So, Angela, in your experience, how automating the compensation plan helps with this transparency and that communication between leadership and the SDRs and AEs?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's well, like one example, I was talking to a company that actually had adjusted their quotas for the team. And just during these times, they adjusted the quota, and obviously that affects their base commission rate. And so with a platform, with that big change, right? It's not that one comp plan that you're going to have for 1 year. They're able to again go through the logic and say, okay, what's happening? I know that this is how much going to get paid. I'm sure many of you on this call have been pinged by your sales reps where they're, what's my quota again? What's my attainment again? Where am I pacing to my goal? What should I do for pricing? How can I get this approval and discounts? A lot of that actually is solved through there. So I encourage my team to go to the system and say, hey, did you check this? And then most of the time they end up answering their own questions, which is always a good win for some of the sales managers and sales folks, sales ops that are on this call today, right? Less questions from the sales team usually means they're pretty happy.
Awesome. I think my last question here, unless the audience has something else, audience go to the chat and ask more questions. Can you share some horror stories from your past with communicating comp plans or with automating comp plans, something that didn't go well that you learned from it, and we don't want the audience to do the same mistakes in the future? Let me start with Max. Do you have some horror stories to share with us?
Yeah, I definitely have some horror stories. I'd say the common theme with most of them is that no one actually understood the comp plans in the first place. But at the same time, they were insistent on automating to something that was broken, right? They needed to make something match in this new future state to something that wasn't accurate in the first place. So I would encourage you, if any of you are considering comp automation, to view it as basically a whole new world, right? You are moving to something that is going to be more accurate, and you can refine your comp plan structure and requirements and things like that. But don't try and build and match to what wasn't working before just for the sake of matching it, right? That's when we've had the most pain with customers and kind of dragged out testing processes a lot longer than they needed to.
Tanner has a question here that I think is kind of related to that. It might be like a horror story. Is the comp plan solely reliant on input by the sales rep and accurate hygiene inside the CRM?
That's a great question. So I guess the first way to answer that is kind of garbage in, garbage out, right? But there are so many protections that you can build in both within the CRM as well as the comp tool to ensure that hygiene is actually occurring, right? So you don't have to go straight from what was entered in the CRM to the person's paycheck. There's a lot of ways you can build in protections for review, such as statement reviews by the sales managers, and then through the comp admins and things like that. You can also have a lot of reporting around this just to ensure that every box is being ticked, essentially, that data is being entered in correctly. And you can also kind of build in an extra layer of protection of like, these are just your estimated commissions based on what you've entered. Please go review everything. And that just buys you more time. It buys the comp team time to actually ensure that the data is clean before moving from a estimated commission over to like, this is going to be your final paycheck. Again, the key here is going to be visibility and transparency. If you don't have that, you're not even going to catch the poor data hygiene. But at least now it's front and center, and everyone can have eyes on it more easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes with sorry, Eduardo.
Go ahead.
Sometimes with a system in place too, right? This is the one thing that reps are going to check all the time is my ARR accurate, or are the things that I'm getting compensated on accurate? And so oftentimes what we'll see is, when people have a question, I'm sure maybe many people on this call, if there's a raise of hands, like how many times a rep is like, hey, I thought I was going to get paid like this on my deal. And it turns out some of the the information that they inputted in the CRM wasn't accurate. There's some things they can do from like a gating perspective to making sure that they have that in place. But with this real time comp tool, reps will oftentimes quickly go into that system to see how much commission that they're going to make, and then if there is a mistake, they tend to do their own due diligence on where there might be a disconnect.
Yeah. Kevin is asking how much of this conversation is service versus software. Am I running it each pay period? How automated is the automation?
Yeah, great question. So I'm pretty bullish and confident that 100% automation is possible for almost everyone. Everyone is going to have some kind of manual process in there, no matter what. They have to, adjust some deals and things like that. But the beauty of moving to automation is you see that manual intervention go away over time, and you can get to the point where it's completely automated, and literally your monthly duty is just taking your payroll and sending that over to the payroll team.
Sounds good. Angela, to close things down, can you share a horror story that you had before, something that you don't want our audience to repeat in the future?
Yeah, I would say when you're doing your comp plans, right? I'm not sure how often people do this, but you definitely want to, when I think back at some of the experiences, like you definitely want that manager, the direct manager, and sales ops or finance, whoever is part of building the comp plan, delivering it as a team to the sales rep or team. That is number one, so that they have questions. Just shows a united front of, hey, we built this together. This is how we're compensated. So if there are one-off questions, you have someone in support to help answer any of the questions there. So that's just something that comes top of mind, because oftentimes I've seen people send comp plans just kind of, hey, take a look, review it. The manager probably doesn't really know what's going on, and then they communicate to the rep. There's a lot of confusion. So when you have, the release of the comp plan, make sure that you have the right resources in the room to walk them through it. As well as, if you do have an automated system in place, you can walk them through there as well, so they can see the difference.
Awesome. This has been fantastic. Let me ask you, my panelists, just for like one key takeaway, what the audience should walk away from this webinar, like knowing about automating their compensation plans. So let me start with Max. What is like the key takeaway that you feel like the audience needs to know?
Yeah, so admittedly, moving to a new tool or a new system and a new process at the end of the day can be kind of scary, but I assure you the alternative is much worse, right? I've seen those spreadsheets that kind of have just been built upon for the last 15 years, and they've gotten to a complete point of collapse, right? That's not a place you want to be in. So, bite the bullet and just dive in. I promise you it's going to make your life better.
That's a pretty good one.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, in my perspective, from a sales leader, and putting on my SDR and AE hat on, it really does help boost morale to have that transparency, and shows that leadership cares about making sure that your payouts are accurate. I have a number of spreadsheets that I've kept on the side at past lives of tracking my deals, making sure that they're accurate. They end up being wrong because the truth is salespeople don't know some formulas. So by having this tool, it really just helps alleviate some of the stuff that they're doing on the side that you might not know about. So, getting an automated tool in place, especially with the climate that we're going in, you definitely want to show that, one, you care. And there's ways too that shows the motivation of reps. I've seen it firsthand as a manager here, on having them see their commissions, having them maximize the most out of their deal, and making sure that they're hitting their number.
That's very interesting. It also related to a little bit of historical data, right? You can see how the compensation change over time and how the rep is doing better or worse over time. And I think Max touched on a really good point about like the cost of doing nothing, right? So it's a little bit of pain now, but that will pay off in the future. If you do nothing now, you're going to be screwed in the future. So that's very good. we are going to wrap things out, but first I want to thank everyone for attending. We love having you here, audience. You are the best part of MSP. I want to say thank you to our wonderful sponsor of this event, Spiff. We have a sponsor booth set up. You can click in our sponsor tab at the top of this page. They have some ungated resources in there for you, and you can also request a demo right in here on this event, and one person from their team will reach out to you very soon. Thank you, speakers, for this amazing content and knowledge that you shared today. I'm pretty sure the audience really loved it. I see here people saying that it was so informative. Thank you so much. And while the speakers and I will hang out backstage, talk a little bit more about compensation plans and how to automate it, the team at Modern Sales Pros will make sure that the recording for this event, the key takeaways are available in our website pretty shortly for you. And you will also receive a follow-up email from us with the link so you can have the information handy. Panelists, let's say goodbye to our audience and hang out backstage for a minute. Bye, audience. I'll see you in the next time.